Welcome back. Talking to Renee. And we're talking about breast cancer and surviving. Oh my, people. It was March the 13th to be exact, of 2017, when I got the dreadful diagnosis that I had stage 2 breast cancer. And it was a shock, because I had never been sick. The most I had was a child, right? And believe it or not, though, I wasn't overwhelmed with fear. It was a tough time in my life at the time, right? Because I had just been laid off. And of course, you want things to happen when it's convenient for you. So this was not a convenient time to get such a diagnosis. But fortunately, by this point, this is, like I said, 2017. What was I? About 42. And when I got the diagnosis, in fact, let me just back up a little bit. This is what was interesting. So first, the doctor, when I got my mammogram, they said that they saw some suspicious calcifications. They wanted to do some extra testing. And then they told me they would need to send me to a breast cancer surgeon. And I went to this woman, and I had a friend to go with me. And she told me it would take the testing, the biopsy, about a week or so. Well, they called me. My return appointment after the biopsy was, let's say, on a Monday. And on the Wednesday prior, the doctor's office called and said, the doctor wants you to have someone with you at your appointment. And I thought to myself, well, heck, you might as well give me the diagnosis right then, right? Because to me, for her to call and say that versus having just told me at the appointment that when I come back, she'd like for someone to be there with me, that was clearly signaling to me that obviously I had breast cancer. So I didn't think that was so right. But anyway, me and my friend went to the doctor, and they gave me the diagnosis. And I told the doctor I wanted to think about it. And the doctor told me, well, no, you're not going to think about it. You're going to live. And so I'm going to schedule you for surgery next week. Yeah, the next week. And I remember telling her, no, you're not. I'm going to think about it. And I may decide to do something holistic. Of course, the doctor kind of argued with me and told me that it was nothing holistic I could do. And that if I wanted to live, I had to do what she wanted me to do. But those of you that know me, know I'm pretty tough and maybe even stubborn. So that just went in one ear and out the other. Because I knew that I had to. I had to go within. I had to pray. I had to think. I had to read. I had to research. And that's exactly what I did. And at the time of my life, as I said, I was technically unemployed or underemployed. My daughter was in the 10th grade. And this was a serious time in my life. And to make a fly-by-night decision was not feasible for me. And to be honest, it would take me another year and a half before I would actually even have my breast removed. During that period, I would see a few doctors, get a few different opinions. And ultimately, it came down to me having my entire right breast removed. And I got to tell you, I wasn't afraid. I was a little bit saddened that I had to deal with this, right? Because I was still relatively a young woman. And the idea of having your breast removed, wow. Yeah, that was heavy. That was heavy. On top of the fact that when I got the diagnosis, I had just gotten my hair cut off. And that was something I didn't want to do, right? My hair was thinning and I had locks. And so, in fact, the Saturday before I got the diagnosis is when I had my locks cut off. So I wasn't feeling so good about that, right? I just didn't feel so good. I mean, more importantly, the world says as a woman, you're not so much of a woman without your hair, right? And then the next week, now they tell me I'm going to need to remove my breast. So yeah, this was heavy stuff. But I must say, at that time, my mentals, my emotions, my spirit self was pretty strong. And ultimately, by the time I finally got my breast removed, I was okay with it. I just wanted to live. In fact, at that time, I had already decided that I would live without my hair, because the only way I could really get my hair to grow back was to put on a wig, and that just wasn't me. And so I had accepted that I would be a bald head lady, and then subsequently a bald head lady without her natural breast. I did forego things like chemotherapy, tamoxifen. The doctor said, yeah, they highly recommended that I take 12 rounds of chemo, that I take 5 years of this tamoxifen. But again, as I told you all, I did my own research. And besides, the fact is that the cancer had not spread it. I had been PET scanned, bone scanned, CAT scanned. I mean, over and over. And it was nothing to suggest that I should really take the chemo or even take the tamoxifen. And I'm thankful for that. I'm now almost 5 years removed, and I'm doing very well. But the decision to sort of go against the doctor, I realize now more than ever how much courage a woman has to do that, because the doctors will almost just overwhelm you with, or overpower you to some degree with what they think you should do. But the reality is you have to do what's best for you. And certainly me having a child, I thought a lot about, well, what if I did die? Well, the reality is I am going to die at some point. And I think whenever I die, I'd like to die on my terms as much as I can. And so I capitulated to having my breast removed. But everything else, no. But I would do the things that I thought would help me to stay healthy, like change my lifestyle, change how I eat, make sure I work out and get enough sleep. And so I've done that. But I will tell you, probably the toughest part of the breast cancer would come with the breast reconstruction. I didn't want an artificial breast because at my age, I would be guaranteed to have to go back to surgery, because the artificial breast lasts only but so much time. More importantly, you don't know how your body is going to respond to the breast. You could put it in and everything could be just fine for, let's say, the first 5 years, and then all of a sudden your body's rejecting it. So now you got to have a surgery to remove it, and then obviously maybe you're going to try to put one back in. So I elected to have a very extensive surgery called a tram flap, where they would take the fat tissue from my abdominal area and create the breast, and take my own fat tissue and make my breast. Well, that did not quite turn out the way I thought. In fact, that probably was the worst part, like I said, of the cancer, because as a result of that surgery, I ended up having 6 other surgeries. I don't have any regrets, but it was more than a notion. And to be honest, I was not as informed as I think I should have been. But nonetheless, I've made it through it. And the breast cancer, the loss of hair, it's really, it put me to a real test in my faith and my resiliency, for sure. But I believe I've risen, because in all honesty, I really do feel good about myself, even though I got a mismatched breast. This is something that, again, I thought it would be much easier to talk about, but maybe not, because it is tough. It is tough. The adjusting to to lose any natural part of your body and to have to accept this new self. Yeah, that's tough stuff. But I must admit, I'm very thankful for my faith, really, and the hope, and the fact that I've come to love myself even more. Now that's real. I don't feel like I'm less than a woman, because I'm not. And honestly, I don't feel less beautiful, because I'm not. I'm just as beautiful to myself as I was with my breasts and with my hair. Yeah. Let's talk more about this. I know lots of you have questions, and I'd be glad to answer. And for that matter, I'd be glad to share more.